there is this very real conversation that we all need to have around hyper-surveillance and the normalization of it, due process. A part of what the state is trying to do right now is to create a permanent state of suspicion. We look at American history where surveillance and the invasion of people's privacy was legitimized, whether it be post 9/11, whether it be during slave codes and black codes, whether it be during the war on drugs and stop and frisk. So if you haven't read much into how surveillance operated during slavery and after during Jim Crow America, there was the issue for white slaveholders that enslaved Africans were trying to fucking get free. They were using the Underground Railroad, they were fleeing. There were different systems of abolition at play that threatened the white economy in the US. And one of the ways that this was pushed back against via surveillance was during plantation slavery, they invented lantern codes. And lantern codes were essentially that if you were an enslaved black and you wanted to travel from one place to another, whether it be to pick up something for your master or to go to a different spot because of some errand that you had to run, if it was nighttime, you had to have a lantern in order for other people to be able to see you, other white people to be able to see you and clearly identify you and know that you were traveling around and not traveling with the cover of night or whatever it may be. And this act of requiring that black bodies identify themselves via having this lantern set the precedent for eventually when slavery was abolished and segregation was brought into play. What would happen there?
In preparation for making this video, I recently watched a docuseries about the murder of Trayvon Martin. And in this series, I was shocked to relearn some core details about George Zimmerman, the man that murdered Trayvon Martin in cold blood. Among many things, George Zimmerman was a man in a crumbling marriage, unable to control his anger issues. Around the time that he moved to this community in Florida, he became a central figure of his community's neighborhood watch. And because of a series of break-ins that had happened in the neighborhood, George Zimmerman was said to have called the police, reporting and reporting and reporting on suspicious people in his neighborhood, some of whom he clearly identified as black. And this documentary notes that just 2 days before the murder of Trayvon Martin, George Zimmerman and his wife had a blowout argument. She left. The day of the shooting of Trayvon Martin, Zimmerman showed up to the house that his wife at the time was staying at, and they had a blowout argument. The wife noted that she had seen an angry side of Zimmerman that she hadn't been exposed to before. All of these facts leading to the murder of Trayvon Martin, and then the white carceral institutions working on the behalf of Zimmerman. Why is the policing of bodies like black bodies so commonplace? What is it about white supremacy and colonization and the logic of carcerality and surveillance that makes someone displace their own rage onto a black body? And how does understanding this get us closer to understanding the complexity of what's happening today? How the George Zimmerman murder of Trayvon Martin mirrors a history where black people are criminalized for simply existing. Zimmerman's shooting of Trayvon Martin was not a moment of personal failure. When does an individual's pursuit of control cross the line into surveillance and criminalization of others? And how does this relate to collective security and the state's role in shaping who we view as suspicious and who we don't?
Nobody is listening to your telephone calls.
Today, Obama defended government monitoring that he says keeps Americans safe.
What was your biggest fear? That I would be detained indefinitely?
All of this reminds me of the assumed criminality of certain identities, which I've talked about at various points on this channel, and you should check out those other videos about that. Black codes and later Jim Crow laws formulated these surveillance methods, criminalizing black freedom. This laid the foundation for the systems that monitor black bodies today, from the National Constitution Center, and these are some of the black codes from Mississippi. Section 7, every civil officer shall and every person may arrest and carry back to his or her legal employer any freedman, free Negro, or mulatto who shall have quit the service of his or her employer before the expiration of his or her terms of service without good cause. Section 2, all freedmen, freed Negroes, and mulattoes in this state over the age of 18 with no lawful employment or business shall be deemed vagrants. You try to quit, your indentured servitude job early, you try to find some other form of work, they can lock your ass up and take you back. If you are over the 18 and you don't have a job, because your job as a black body on this land is to be a laborer, they can lock your ass up. We see why lynchings could have been more possible. We see why the violence against a child like Emmett Till could have been more possible. And we see how surveillance and carcerality literally existed to define black people as being subjugated or under a lesser class and social position than whites, and also how it operated to entrap black bodies into this consistent relationship of providing labor and profit for white bodies in this country. Why did I grow up in Cleveland, Ohio, and every time me and my best friends tried to go to Tower City after school, we would get kicked out? The state's logic was that there are black kids coming up in here and these niggas are fighting and this is fucking crazy. For me, it felt like you can't be black in this city and enjoy some of the pillar institutions that exist. Why at one point was my brother charging a phone in the mall in his 20s, and then a cop charged him for stealing public electricity. This permanent state of suspicion is racialized, is codified, and is being innovated today as we speak. And what do we do when we see these processes innovating? How do we protect each other? What is the utility of being black and resisting if we believe these systems will inevitably just lock us away? And how do we advocate and fight for each other?
The city of Pittsburgh believes gunshot detection technology called ShotSpotter is saving lives, but is it worth the cost? Over the next few years, the city is set to invest millions of dollars in the technology.
A few years ago, when I was doing a lot more freelance journalism, I wrote a feature for Coda Story that was all about the AI software called ShotSpotter. And I believe I might have mentioned this in a video, but essentially ShotSpotter is this predictive policing.
ShotSpotter has changed all that. By utilizing advanced technology honed over 2 decades, we have automated the process. We monitor gunfire activity 24/7. So if a gun is fired in any area within ShotSpotter coverage, the system detects, locates, and immediately alerts police of the gunshot. So how does it work? It starts with acoustic sensors that are placed on buildings or street lamps throughout a neighborhood. If a gun is fired anywhere in the area, multiple sensors detect and timestamp the sound. The precise location of the gunshot is determined based on the amount of time it takes for the sound of the gunshot to travel to each individual sensor.
The feature that I wrote was about a local case here in central Ohio where a black man was in his neighborhood, people were setting off fireworks, the cops showed up, came to his house, and they brutally arrested him on body cam. I eventually wrote a piece on this. I interviewed the black man who was unjustly brutalized and arrested. I was interested in the fact that the person at the lead of it at the time was a black man, was like a black centrist conservative, saying that these kinds of softwares can give police more tools to more accurately police. It's like a lot of privacy professionals say, these technologies and systems that are being implemented aren't safe from the isms and the bigotry and the assumptions that humans have. They simply follow those logics because these institutions apply those logics to these technologies and systems as well. An AI that I recently learned about was Clearview AI.
Been in the press a lot, young man, and then a lot of it praising you and what you're doing, and a lot of it condemning you and saying, "Oh my God, look what he's doing." Are you invading people's privacy?
We are a law enforcement tool that helps law enforcement solve crimes, and it only searches publicly available images.
You took his picture,
correct,
and within seconds you had 81 photos from sites.
Mm-hmm. So, you know, it's just the beginning, strictly for law enforcement.
All right, little problem with that is the Clearview AI CEO was talking about something last week. He said it was unlikely to happen anytime.
Definitely, the technology that they have is quite frightening. I understand his argument. He says it's law enforcement is using this, but he also says law enforcement is using this.
Explain what they do again. They can take a picture and then cite any and all instances of similar pictures anywhere and everywhere.
Virtually anywhere on the internet, right. Anywhere there's publicly available pictures. protesters. They're going to be able to search through that. And that includes maybe you were walking through someone's photograph when they were out in Times Square taking pictures of, a hot dog stand. What's such a novel thing. If you're in the background and that picture was posted publicly, that picture would come up. It's still you in the photograph, which is what makes it so terrifying. They were hacked. Now, their AI wasn't stolen, just their client list was taken. So now someone knows who they're working with and what requests have been made of their database, which in and of itself is a little frightening. I guess you could go through that and see, well, is there a police department making doing a photo image search for me? And should
I promise I do not watch Fox News. Granted, watch Fox News if you want to for for research purposes. But I found these clips and are these reporters asking the right questions? Yeah. Were they platforming this person and praising them? Yeah. So just giving that context.
I started digging into this because last year there was a lot of talk in the news about how there are different alt-right groups or Republican orgs basically using AI to scrub the internet to identify as many protesters from 2024's Palestine encampment protests. And if you have a basic level of protest knowledge, people say, turn off your phone, don't bring your phone, mask up, both for the safety of other people that are immunocompromised and to not allow yourself to be as detected by the state. But what we don't always talk about are what companies and institutions are doing to aid the state in their goal of hypersurveillance. And Clear AI is clearly one of these examples. On their website, Clearview AI notes, they accelerate your investigations if you're in law enforcement, supporting law enforcement agencies, whether it be federal, state and local, tribal, Department of Defense. It's fucking wild that they pitch that's the tribal police departments, but it's the world's largest facial network. Clearview AI provides law enforcement and government agencies with greater insight and lead generation through the use of search platform. Our platform includes the largest known database of 50 plus billion facial images sourced from public only web sources, including news media, mugshot websites, public social media, and other open sources. Government agencies that use our platform can experience high-quality leads with fewer resources expended. These leads, when supported by other evidence, can help effectively and rapidly identify subjects, persons of interest, and victims to help solve and prevent crimes. Over 50 billion plus images. And I was researching this, and basically this company started in 2017 because one of the leaders of it, Ho Tan That, was really into AI and wanted to understand the possibilities of it. And he started researching this more once he lived in New York and started rubbing elbows with Republican think tankers. I'm going to read a bit from an article from the New York Times called The Secretive Company That Might End Privacy as We Know It. And this article reads, Mr. Tan wanted to go way beyond that. Mr. Tan began in 2016 by recruiting a couple of engineers. One helped design a program that automatically collected images of people's faces from across the internet, such as employment sites, news sites, educational sites, and social networks, including Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and even Venmo. Representatives of these companies said that policies prohibit such scraping, and Twitter said it explicitly banned use of its data for facial recognition. Another engineer was hired to perfect a facial recognition algorithm that was derived from academic papers. The result, a system that uses what Mr. Tan That described as a state-of-the-art neural net to convert all images into mathematical formulas or vectors based on facial geometry, like how far apart a person's eyes are. Clearview created a vast directory that clustered all these photos with similar vectors into neighborhoods. When a user uploads a photo of a face into Clearview's systems, it converts the face into a vector and then shows all the scraped photos stored in that vector's neighborhood, along with the links to the sites from which these photos came. It's also noted in this New York Times article that for a number of years, Clearview AI used a variety of methods to keep its research processes, and the fact that this technology was being developed relatively secret. They had certain higher-ups label themselves differently or with obscure titles on LinkedIn. Does anyone else see a conundrum in the fact that people are working for and supporting this company that is leading to hypersurveillance, and they're also trying to keep their processes under lock and key? These rich people want to pay money to sell out the fucking masses while they're anonymous online. John Good, are you it's sickening to me. Reading that this technology was used to catch January 6th rioters, people that broke into the fucking Capitol. And then our government, as of now, released all those hoes. Like, what does it tell you that rich people create these tools of surveillance that they can evade? 50 billion plus images. 50 billion plus images scraped from the fucking internet? Yeah. Yeah. Oh, well, you might be like, oh, maybe Clearview AI isn't that bad. Clearview AI, controversial facial recognition firm, fined $33 million for illegal databases. Controversial facial recognition company Clearview AI reportedly embraced U.S. government and law enforcement agencies has been fined more than $30 million by Netherlands data protection watchdog on Tuesday for building an illegal database containing billions of faces taken from social media and the internet. Key facts. The Dutch watchdog said it had fined Clearview $30.5 billion for automatically harvesting billions of photos of people from the internet. Clearview uses illegal databases to sell facial recognition services to intelligence and investigative services such as law enforcement. Clearview scrapes photos from the internet without these people knowing and without them having given consent for their photo or biometric data being used. It's why tech is so much in Donald Trump's government. It's why he's brought so many of these people in. They want to deregulate as much as they can. They want to deregulate the land. They want to deregulate the internet. They want to deregulate the food that we're receiving, deregulate our educational systems, put tariffs on all these other countries. So all of these relationships of globalization that the US has established in the past to fuck up other countries and fuck up our economy, now we're peeling that back. And what do you think deregulation is going to lead to? The investment into AI and Bitcoin and crypto and tech-based surveillance, because these are the kinds of people that Trump is bringing into his cabinet and administration.
Also the first major candidate to accept Bitcoin campaign donations.
I'm laying out my plan to ensure that the United States will be the crypto capital of the planet and the Bitcoin superpower of the world, and we'll get it done.
They want to funnel more money into surveillance and militarism and say that that is an American ideal, that protecting national security is an American ideal, that fighting terrorism is an American ideal, that detaining anyone who's against the president is an American ideal. How do you have a US cabinet that is worth over $300 billion? What are these people invested in? And how are they invested in us being subjugated and our rights being taken away, of every single part of our lives being up for surveillance? And the bottom line is, rather than making law enforcement more neutral or effective, smart policing and predictive policing technologies intensify racial biases, erode privacy, and give police even more unchecked power. These systems don't prevent crime, they just make over-policing and surveillance more efficient at targeting the same communities they have always criminalized.
The state is giving itself new powers every day. Cops and feds are scanning faces at protests. ICE is tracking people with tech that no one voted for. And companies like Clearview AI and ShotSpotter are making millions, turning the entire internet into a police lineup. This isn't just about one company. It's about the way AI, surveillance, and state power are locking hands to decide who can move freely and who gets watched, detained, or worse. And if you think this doesn't affect you, think again. Today, activists, journalists, and immigrants are being tracked. Tomorrow, it's anyone who steps out of line. The state doesn't need new laws to justify this. It just takes new tech and the right crisis, or manufactured crisis, to make mass surveillance the norm. So what do? We begin to take security culture more seriously. We stop making it easy for them. That means using encrypted messaging, limiting what we share online, paying attention to how we move, especially in organizing and radical spaces. It means supporting the people that are already facing the harshest surveillance: Black organizers, indigenous land defenders, trans activists, migrants, Pro Palestine protestors, and beyond. It means understanding that none of this is neutral. Technology is always political, and in the hands of cops and corporations, it's a weapon. This is just the beginning of this conversation. Next week in part 2, we're going to get into the myth of due process, who it was built for, who it was never meant to protect, and how Trump and AI policing are exposing the cracks in the system. Stay tuned, stay sharp, and start having conversations with your community, because our future depends on it. Thank you for watching another video on my channel. I'm finding more and more that these videos are really just cathartic and helping me process the times as they are happening, so I hope they help you in similar ways. And once again, if you want to support this channel, consider liking, commenting, and subscribing if you haven't already. Also consider becoming a Patreon member or checking out the Dugout podcast. And additionally, if you want to have another home for radical media that you can watch, stream, share with your friends, understand more of what's happening both historically and presently, I would suggest using my code in the description to sign up for Means TV, one of the first radical co-op streaming services out there. Means TV has all sorts of documentaries, video shows from filmmakers, from YouTubers, from content creators, all about leftism. And I actually use it a lot for B-roll on my channel. And I watch some of their documentaries with my friends. So if you want to sign up for Means TV and support this channel, consider signing up with my code PRINCE with the link in the description, which will give you a discount on signing up. And see you next week.